Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. This is Mr. VG, and you are now in video 2 in this series where we're working through the grade 10 paper 1. If you haven't watched the first video, ladies and gentlemen, we go into solving question 1A. I've already worked through question 1A in the previous video, so if you haven't watched it, hit the pause button and go and watch the previous one. For this video, we are specifically going to look at B, solving simultaneously. So I'm going to quickly jump into our next one, where we are going to look specifically at simultaneous equations. So there is the solution for question A2, A3, and A4. And in this one, the next one, we are going to look at solving simultaneously. Now, there are always two options you have with solving simultaneously. You've got either the option of elimination or substitution. Now, I'm going to say this very, very clearly. Elimination method is awesome. I love it. But it doesn't always work. So therefore, I know a lot of teachers are hesitant to teach elimination method because they kind of go, but it's a waste of time. Until you get to matric, where using elimination just speeds up your solving, especially when we get to number patterns in grade 12. Then we use elimination a lot of times, okay? So let's look at both options so that you've got it in your toolbox if you need it for the future. So I'm going to start by looking at substitution. So substitution, we always need to isolate one variable. So I'm going to say from the second one, I'm choosing to get x alone. So I'm making x the subject. And this now, I'm going to substitute back into the first equation. Wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace it with negative 6 plus 4y. Again, why do we do this? Because, remember, solving simultaneously means all of your x values are the same and all of your y values are the same. So if x is equal to negative 6 plus 4y in the second equation, it's also going to be that in the first equation. Distributing my brackets in because I want to see what kind of an equation this is, I'm sitting with a straightforward linear equation. All that's going to happen, ladies and gents, in grade 11 is we are going to have more difficult equations at this point. There's going to be quadratic equations. There might be some exponential equations. Oh, amazing. But in this case, it's simply a linear equation. So I'm going to get my y alone on one side. So solving for y gives me 11y equal to 22. Dividing by 11 both sides gives me y equal to 2. But now I've only solved y. I need to substitute back to calculate the value of x as well. I always love to use my third equation. Another one, the one where x is already alone. So I'm simply going to replace that y by 2 and I get x to be 2 as well. Okay? This is substitution. This is the one I know all teachers will show. Okay? All teachers will show this method for one simple reason. It works. It always works. It's not always quick and fast. It's not always simple, but it always works. Okay? So let's have a look at elimination. Now, elimination, as I said previously, doesn't always work. But elimination in matric is a valuable valuable tool to have in your toolbox. So in our case, in this case, we are going to try and make the coefficients of x the same. So I'm going to take the first one and leave it as is. But I'm going to take the second equation and I'm going to try and make the coefficient of x, which is 1, I'm going to make it into 2. You could go to the y's as well and do the same. But I'm choosing the easy one. So I'm going to times everything in the second equation by 2. And that gives me 2x minus 8y equal to negative 12. At this point, ladies and gents, you have to decide. Am I going to add? Am I going to subtract? But also, maybe I could divide left-hand side and right-hand side to make something disappear, to eliminate a variable. Okay? Now, I know that you haven't really done ones where we times or divide, but in matric, there's going to be some equations that we call geometric sequences. Don't let it frighten you. But we're dividing both sides. Remember, not individual terms, both sides is going to make a variable disappear. Okay? But what we are going to say is, let's subtract the equations from one another. So I'm going to take the top one, the first one, and subtract the third one from it. So I'm going to say 2x minus 2x and plus 3y minus negative 8y. I love to write out this step for myself, okay? I love to write it out. Some teachers do it in their head. But what I have found is that if my students don't write the step out, they tend to mess up their signs, especially when I've got like a minus and a minus. Now, if I subtract this, I'm going to say 0x and the plus 11y is now 22. Again, what happens to the x? It is eliminated. That's why we use the method. That's where the word comes from, elimination. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 11, giving me y equal to 2. Oh my goodness! The same thing happened on the left. So when I look at the elimination, now I still haven't solved x, so I'm going to substitute that y value. I can choose 1, 2, or 3. I'm going to choose the second one. Why? Because of there being only one x in there. So I'm going to substitute that value into the second one, giving me x minus 4 times 2. So x is going to then be negative 6 plus 8, which gives me 2. But that's exactly the same thing. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is beautiful. This is absolutely gorgeous. Same answers no matter which method I use. Now, I want to just encourage you. Do not just get stuck in using one method. I know some of you might want to pause the video after substitution and go, oh, but I've got the answer, sir. Why are you showing me the second method? Because one of the things that I always tell my students is that you need to know as many methods as you can. The more methods you know, the better your chances of success. You are not always just going to be able to use substitution or just elimination, but give yourself as many tools in your toolbox. Think about someone going into a wall. Imagine if they say, you know what, oh man, I don't care about firing weapons. I can just, defend myself using a knife. Can they defend themselves with a knife? Yes. But is it always going to work? No. They've also got to learn to use a gun. Maybe if you want to learn more, you can learn how to operate a tank. You can learn to operate a pilot, an aeroplane. Okay? Now, give yourself as many options as you can so that the war will be a success. Man, I get excited about maths. I hope you are feeling my excitement and enjoying these videos. So I'm going to tell you to please subscribe to the channel. Please go to the Junior Techie online and get yourselves as many tools in your toolbox. And therefore, this is Mr. VG signing out. Have a beautiful day and tune into our next video where I'm going to go into the more traditional just algebra with exponents with you. So keep well. Cheers.